You're 17 years old, and there's a man bleeding out on the dirt floor of your uncle's warehouse in Culiacan. You didn't pull the trigger. You just stood in the doorway and watched, because your uncle told you to stand there and watch. And you learn very early that your uncle's instructions are the kind you follow without asking why. The man on the floor used to collect debts for a rival outfit. Now he's something else. The smell of copper and gasoline fills the air. Your uncle hands you a rag and tells you to wipe down the door handles. You do it. You go home. You sleep. That's the first thing this life costs you. The belief that sleep can be clean. Your uncle, Aurelio, runs a mid-tier operation out of Sinaloa. Not the top. Not even close. He moves product north through a patchwork of arrangements, bribes, and mutual fears. He's methodical and paranoid, and he loves you the way hard men love things they made useful. By the time you're 19, you have a small crew under his umbrella, moving product into Sonora. You're making more money than your father made in a decade driving trucks. You're 20 when the Federales hit Aurelio's stash house in Navajoa. Wrong place, wrong time. You're inside, counting a delivery when the trucks pull up. No sirens, just headlights, and then boots on gravel, and then shouting. You go out the back window. You drop 6 feet onto hard dirt and run into an arroyo that smells like sewage, and you lie face down in the dark for 2 hours while dogs bark upstream and a helicopter sweeps the hillside with white light. The man beside you, a runner named Moises, 22, someone you taught to count by denomination, gets up after 90 minutes. You grab his sleeve. He says he can't breathe. He stands anyway. They find him at the road. You hear the shouting, and then you don't hear Moises anymore. You stay in the arroyo till dawn, and when you climb out, your hands are shaking and your shoes are soaked through, and you understand for the first time in your body, and not just in your mind, that this life burns the people standing next to you. You make it out. Moises does not. You never speak his name again, because you learn quickly that guilt is a liability. Then Aurelio is arrested. Not quietly. Federales, early morning. The kind of raid that is televised because someone wanted it televised. He's gone in a single morning, and by noon, 3 men who worked under him are already making calls. You're 22. You have a crew, a reputation, and no protection. A man named Sotelo offers to fold you in. Take a percentage, keep your life. You know it's a leash. That night, you reach out to Aurelio's Guatemalan intermediary, a man named Fierro, and offer better terms. Fierro takes them. Sotelo disappears 3 weeks later. You don't ask questions. At 24, you're running Aurelio's old operation, expanded. You've moved the distribution network east, cut the middle arrangement in Sonora, and built a relationship with a port contact in Guaymas who has access to shipping manifests before they're filed. You're methodical in the way Aurelio taught you. What you do not yet understand is that you're building something large enough to attract people whose appetites you cannot predict. Her name is Valentina. She's a lawyer. You meet through a mutual contact at a dinner that is technically a birthday party and functionally a negotiation. She's sharp and careful, and she doesn't ask questions she doesn't want answered. You marry her when you're 27. Your daughter is born 11 months later. You name her Lucia. You hold her in the hospital, and the world goes still in a way it has not been still since you were 16. This is the second thing that life costs you. The ability to feel safe while loving something. At 30, you're operating at a scale that puts you in contact with cartel leadership in Sonora, not as a subordinate, but as a regional partner. A man named Galvan runs the Sonora corridor, and he smiles with his whole face while he's deciding whether you're useful or a problem. He wants to fold you in formally, full visibility into your routes, your contacts, your margins. You understand immediately that this is not a partnership offer. It is a documentation request before an acquisition. You stall for 4 months. During that time, you quietly move one key transit route to a new operator, a woman named Esmeralda, who runs a legitimate produce company. You also make contact with a competing faction in Chihuahua. Then Galvan stops smiling. His men visit 2 of your distributors. Both go silent. Chavez, a man you've worked with since you were 23, who was at your wedding, who drank at your table, turns up badly hurt in a hospital in Nogales. You go to see him. He looks at you from the bed and then looks away. His wife is in the corner and she doesn't look at you at all. You leave money on the bedside table. You know it isn't what he needs. You leave it anyway. You walk out and you don't go back. That's the third thing the life costs you. A friend's eyes willing to meet yours. You give the Chihuahua faction information on Galvan's distribution. The operation against him comes from above 9 months later. He's removed. You don't know how much your information contributed. You tell yourself it was decisive. You're 34. You're the Sonora Corridor. 12 lieutenants, relationships across 4 states. Lucia's 6, and she asks why the men with you don't talk like colleagues. You say she's very observant. You say it with pride. It costs you something you cannot name. Your inner circle has a man named Briseño. 12 years, the kind of trust you build in increments and rarely examine. Then you notice a change. He takes calls away from the table, stops finishing his meals. His hands go too still when certain names come up. You feed him false information about a shipment through Agua Prieta in March. When that route is hit, your men are fine. The cargo is never there. You know. You know what you have to do. And knowing and doing are separated by the length of one night. You bring him in alone. You sit across from him and place the phone record on the table. The call he made to the Chihuahua number 45 minutes after you told him the route. He looks at it. He doesn't speak. You watch his face cycle through calculation, appeal, grief, and then nothing. He says your name once, the way he said it 12 years ago when you first brought him in. You say nothing. He says, I thought they would take you anyway. I thought this way at least my family. And you say quietly, I know. 2 words. You mean them. Then you stand and leave the room and close the door. You don't give an order. The men outside understand. You sit in your car and grip the steering wheel and think about 12 years and about Moises in the Arroyo. And you understand that the list of people that you burned through is long and not getting any shorter. Briseño had a daughter 2 years older than Lucia. You make sure his family receives money every month through a channel they cannot trace. It changes nothing. You do it anyway. At 37, you survive the ambush outside a restaurant in Ciudad Obregon. Later, when you try to reconstruct it, the sequence keeps fracturing. You remember it not as events, but as sensations arriving out of order. The concussion of the first vehicle hitting yours from the side. Your head snapping against the window. Glass in your collar. Smoke or dust turning the headlights into white smears. Your driver screaming something you cannot parse. The engine sound changing. And then the second impact from behind that throws you into the seat in front of you, and you bite through your lip, and the blood is immediate and hot and copper. Someone outside is shooting. You cannot hear the shots. Only the pressure of them. The car shuddering under you like something alive and afraid. Your door's jammed. Your security man Rafa drags you across the back seat and out the far side and forces you flat against the asphalt. And his weight is on top of you, and you can feel the road through your cheekbone. Gritty and still warm from the day's heat, and you cannot tell if you're hurt or if the ringing in your ears is permanent. Then Rafa makes a sound above you, short, bitten off, and then goes heavy. You pull him down and hold him there and wait. The shooting stops the way storms stop, not gradually, but all at once. Rafa takes a round in the shoulder. He'll never fully use that arm again. On your second hospital visit, he tells you not to come back. It makes the nurses nervous. He's smiling when he says it. You understand the smile as a gift. You take it. Valentina takes Lucia to Guadalajara. She calls from there and says she's not asking you to choose. She already knows what you would choose. What she's saying is that she has chosen. You listen. You don't argue. You have men on the house within the hour. You're 41. The federal investigation is working east from the coast. You have 60 days. Maybe fewer. You begin making yourself smaller. Then Lucia calls on a Saturday. She's 14, and her voice has changed since summer. Lower. More careful. The voice of someone learning how to measure what they say. She has a school project about organized crime in Sinaloa in the 1990s. She says she's been reading about a cartel figure from Culiacan who built a distribution network through Sonora in the early 2000s before vanishing. She says offhandedly, "The article says nobody knows what happened to him. Isn't that strange? Like, he just stopped existing." She's not asking about you. She doesn't know to ask. The silence on your end goes 3 seconds too long, and she says, "Papa?" You say, "Yes, that's strange." Your voice is completely level. You've spent 20 years making your voice level. After you hang up, you sit in the kitchen for a long time without moving, and you understand then, fully and without mercy, what the life has made you. Not a boss, not a survivor, but a man so expert at disappearing that his own daughter can describe him in the past tense and not know it. At 43, you cross the border, carefully. You're not arrested, not killed, simply gone. From the corridor, from the network, from the name people said quietly in certain rooms. In a city you keep to yourself. You rent a small house and pay cash and watch the street from a window every morning for 6 months before you stop watching quite so closely. You don't sleep easily. You don't expect to. But sometimes in the early morning you make coffee and the kitchen is quiet and you think about what it costs to build something that outlasts the person you were when you started. Everything, it turns out. Everything except the memory of it. This is what this life costs you, and that is what it made you.